All right, let's talk about George Zimmerman.
There will be no federal civil rights prosecution of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin.
Just as I said before, I told you guys this day one, there will be none. I've had a lot of comments telling me there will be. Well, now we're here. Just like I said originally that there will be no conviction in the trial, and people argued with me up and down, and of course, no conviction. And now this, again, I'm right on this case. And the girls that tried to cause him trouble with the police. And in every case, people come to me and say, "Oh, how about that? Now your boy's in trouble, huh?" No, 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 no. And in every case, I blow it off because I can see through the crap. And the people that don't see through the crap, I feel sorry for them.
Zimmerman, you'll recall, was acquitted of murder charges in Florida. Today, the Department of Justice said it's dropping its case, and Michelle Miller has more.
You know, they've held on to this case for all this time. The the trial brought out all the evidence. So you would think that at this point, the Justice Department would say, well, it took us all this time because, and then they would give a reason like, there was extra evidence that came out that wasn't in the trial or something like that. But no, that's not it. They just left it hanging all this time. Why? Because they were hoping to stir racial animosity. They wanted to keep these people dancing in the streets, but it doesn't work.
The news was delivered to Trayvon Martin's parents by prosecutors from the Department of Justice. The family's attorney, Benjamin Crump, was in the room.
And they knew about it from day one, that it was never going to come to fruition. When he won Stand Your Ground, that eliminates any possibility for any criminal issues. He's not going to have to face anything. And we told you guys that from day one. We told you when the case first came up that Stand Your Ground protects him and that there was no evidence against him otherwise. No one wanted to listen to that. So when the trial ended and we found out that absolutely not only was there no evidence against him, but all the evidence supported him and proved that he was innocent, they continued by hanging on to this case. They didn't care. Eric Holder wanted to hang on to that gun. He didn't want George to get his gun back. That gun's got to be worth a lot of money right now.
How did the family take the news?
They were heartbroken, even though they expected that it was going to happen.
So, they knew it all along. I'm sure that Eric Holder sat down with him and said, "Listen, we're going to drag this thing out as long as we can. We're going to continue to keep the flame lit underneath of it because we want you to get your support." People are sending these people money, and now she's made it her life to just focus on this whole thing. It's like she can't hear, see, or visualize. She doesn't understand that this case is a case of an out of control teenager that had parents that were out of control, or the parents didn't really care about him. So much so that mom sent him to be with dad because she couldn't control him because he had been suspended 3 times in 1 year. So we got, if you go into any prison and just start asking the prisoners, what was happening to you just before you ended up in prison? They'll say, well, I was doing bad in school, I got suspended, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, I was doing drugs, right? These are the things that they say. So everything that Trayvon was doing was leading him to prison. Where would he be today if he didn't get killed? Good chance that he would be in prison right now, right? So if that's the case, then, as far as I'm concerned, he's probably better off than he would be in prison.
It was just hard actually hearing it and knowing that the kill of your unarmed child was never going to be held criminally liable.
So, unarmed child comes up again. I mean, really? Really? It's just ridiculous. Even after the trial, and we've proven and we've shown how his head was bashed on the concrete. We've shown the pictures of the bloody skull. You know, we've listened to the comments of the witnesses. We heard George's testimony that Trayvon had told him he was going to kill him that night. None of that seems to matter to this family or to this lawyer. None, not at all. But believe me, if the tables were turned and George was the one bashing Trayvon's head on the concrete, and Trayvon was the one that killed George, you would have these same parents and this same lawyer standing up defending him, saying, "Oh, well, he was just defending his life."
On February 26, 2012, George Zimmerman shot and killed the unarmed 17-year-old after an altercation. The teen was walking home from a convenience store to his father's home when Zimmerman, acting as a neighborhood watchman, confronted him.
Oh, what a lie. What a lie. George confronted him. Oh, really? It's almost like the media refuses to look at the trial. But the truth is they know what happened. Absolutely. So what they're doing now is they're lying. And why are they lying? Because George refuses to hold them accountable. He had one lawsuit. The lawsuit was heard by the judge that heard the case. And that judge never liked George, didn't agree with the arguments, and so she immediately said, "Oh, no, 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 no," and she washed this thing away. Now, hopefully George is going to appeal it because the facts in the case are so glaringly obvious that how it happens that they even allow this judge to sit on the case is just proof that the entire system is broken. I mean, this is a FISA court judge. This is one of those judges that gets to hold you without a lawyer and put you in prison without a lawyer because they say that maybe you were involved in some terrorist activity or whatever. And no lawyer, total secret. I don't know if you've ever heard of the FISA court, but it is a secret court. It's totally secret, and it's not controlled by any of our government. They just have this specialized court. It's out of control.
Zimmerman said he acted in self-defense. In a statement, the Justice Department said there was insufficient evidence to prove Zimmerman willfully caused bodily injury because of Martin's race.
So, at this point, you would say insufficient evidence or any evidence. Because when you say insufficient, that means, we had evidence to support it, but it was insufficient, right? So, and I could say that about a million things, but the truth is, if you're going to say that there's insufficient evidence and that's why we couldn't do it, it almost makes you sound like you're trying to lead people to believe that there was any evidence to support such a notion. But there was none. Zero. Not even a drop. Right? We know that because we saw the trial. We followed the trial all the way through.
Or that Zimmerman committed those acts in open defiance of the law.
Well, that should be enough right there. Boom. Look, we don't have any evidence to support this guy did anything wrong. End of story. But they had that evidence from day one after the trial, and they dragged this out for all this time. They probably have a bunch of lawyers on staff that build for this work. I would love to see the list of hours that they spent trying to figure this out. They could have called me the day after the trial, and I could have said, "Look, this is going to be a dead case. You don't have any evidence against him." Not only that, he's got all the evidence on his side. The witnesses, all the corroborating evidence, the physical evidence, everything supports George and his story. Nothing supports them.
It is one of the highest standards of intent imposed by.
It doesn't matter how high the standard is because you have no evidence. You see what I'm saying? It's like, well, we had all this evidence, but the evidence wasn't sufficient. We couldn't get over that high hurdle. No, 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 no. You're going to hear in this little clip from the media that there is no evidence. They don't say there's no evidence. They just bring out no evidence. Now, and if they wanted to make this argument about standards, then they should say, well, look, there is a ton of evidence, but it doesn't reach that level. You've got to get to the level. No, 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 no. There's zero, nary a drop of evidence to support a conviction. And it's been that way from the time the trial started until the time it ended, and all this time in between for the last couple of years.
Law. Our decision not to pursue federal charges does not condone the shooting and is based solely on the high legal standard.
So they don't condone self-defense. They don't condone using your firearm to protect yourself from a guy who's threatening to kill you, who's told you he's going to kill you, and he's physically doing it. He's physically got his hands on your face, and he's taking your head and slamming it onto the concrete with every bit of energy that he has. And he's telling you, I'm going to kill you. But the Justice Department doesn't condone self-defense. And you would think that at this point they would say, there was evidence to support both sides, but we really, no, 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 no. The evidence is clear. George was being killed, and he used his gun to save his life. That's the evidence. That's the facts. Anyone want to deny that? They're a moron, a racist moron, or a gun grabber. Those are the two options.
As far as I'm concerned,
Brad Brown is vice president of Miami-Dade's branch of the NAACP. In your mind, has there been justice in this case?
I don't think there's been justice in this case at all. Now, that doesn't mean that the legal system didn't work as it is designed to work.
Again, you've got another person here saying, his opinion. This is fine. My opinion, the case, there's no justice here. But if you're going to make such a statement, wouldn't you come up with some sort of information to support your information? Like, the case wasn't justified because the information that we found proved that George was really an evil guy trying to kill a black kid or something, something. But nothing. We've got nothing here. All we have is blah, 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 blah. They're chatting. But there's yet a single piece of evidence. They haven't talked about any evidence in the case.
But it doesn't always bring justice.
Trayvon Martin's parents haven't decided if they'll sue George Zimmerman in civil court.
They have decided. Trust me when I tell you they have decided. And I told you this after the trial in 2013. They decided because their lawyer told them they don't have the possibility to sue George in civil court. And people are like, what? Huh? How can that be? Of course you can sue in civil court, even if the criminal court is resolved. Not in Florida. We have stand your ground. Stand your ground protects you from civil cases. That's what the immunity is all about. It's one thing to win the case. It's another thing to win immunity. Immunity protects you from civil cases, and that's a done deal.
But they say they will focus on his foundation to ensure his legacy remains alive. Scott, he would have turned 20 years old this month.
Wow. Just think, one less person stuck in a prison cell. Because let's face it, Trayvon was headed to prison, like I said earlier. Go ask any guy that's in prison what he was doing just before he ended up in prison. Especially the ones that end up there as teenagers. What caused it? Well, they were having troubles in school. Maybe they got suspended 2 or 3 times in a year. Their mom couldn't control them. They're from a divorced family. Maybe they were sent to their dads, but their dad couldn't control them, or their dad didn't care and just gave them money and said, go out and play, do whatever you want to do. They're fighters. They get in trouble constantly. They're doing bad things. This is what criminals do. He was moving on a criminal road. And if you feel sorry for him and you want to do something about it, don't sit there and pat him on the back and say, oh, poor baby, you shouldn't have been shot. Oh, poor baby, it was all George Zimmerman's fault. That's bullshit. What you should be doing, if you want to help others that are on that same road, is stop them on their track and say, you're headed to prison. or death. That's what you should be doing. Sitting there patting them on the back, telling them, oh, poor baby. That's bullshit. Any 17-year-old that starts banging somebody's head on the concrete is probably going to get killed. And no one's going to mourn their dead bodies except their mama. And that's just too bad. It's sad for the mama. And the kid should respect that and stop doing these evil things. Anyhow, I haven't made a video about Trayvon Martin in a long time, and this just popped up in the news and I had to respond. It's just so irritating because you keep hearing this stupid thing about 17-year-old unarmed teenager, blah, 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 blah. You know, let me take any one of you people that are talking like that and put you in a cage with one of these 17-year-olds that are about the same shape and size as Trayvon and have a little bit of experience with MMA. Put you in the cage and let them. And let's take the officials out because officials stop people from getting killed, and we wouldn't want that. We want this unarmed teenager to be in a cage with you and just let them pummel you until they're done. Because let's face it, if he's unarmed, he can't kill you, right? Isn't that the truth? Come on, admit it. Come on. If no one's ever been killed except if someone's got a gun or a knife, right? Never has anyone ever been killed by having their head bashed on the concrete. No. Or even punched with a single punch. No, that's never happened. So just keep bringing up the unarmed part because all that does is make you look like, well, a moron. I mean, there's just nothing else to say. What do you say about somebody who keeps bringing up such ignorant comments? It's sad. And so to the media, I say, I already know what your deal is. So I'm not trying to get you to change. You're in it for, you got a plan. You actually have something you're going to do. You want a race war. You want to divide people based on several things, race, gender, whatever you can. And anybody that disagrees with that, just watch the news at any time. If you don't think that the media is trying to drive a wedge between people, then, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm not going to argue it with you because that's just a waste of my breath. And those people that believe that, nothing you can say will ever change them. Their brains have been thoroughly washed. And some people just don't have the mental capacity to step outside of the TV box. Whatever they hear on TV is the truth, is a fact. I mean, they wouldn't allow it on TV if it wasn't true, right? So for those people, I really don't care what you think because you are too far gone. Nothing can help you. Nothing. It's just a matter of trying to educate the new generations as they come up. That's my only hope because the people that are already there, you're already educated. It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. Ain't happening. Ain't happening. Anyhow, good talking to you. Talk to you later. Bye.